there, welcome back to my channel. My name is Pav and I recently graduated from university, and my brother and cousin just started university, and lately I've been finding myself giving them a lot of advice, a lot of tips on how to succeed in university or just school in general. So if you're here to see how to succeed in university or college or school, how to do well in school, then you've come to the right place. Don't forget to hit the like and the subscribe button down below, and without further ado, let's get on with the video. Okay, so I have my notebook here and I've made some notes in here because I want to make sure I hit all the points that I want to make. I might turn this into kind of like a school series and do like a couple of videos regarding this topic. So maybe I'll do one on like how to get straight A's or 4.0 GPA or something like that. So stay tuned and make sure you subscribe to my channel so you know that those videos are coming up. The first thing that I want to say, and this is like the easiest thing, and it kind of seems like, I mean, that's obvious, but ask questions. You are not dumb if you're asking questions. Asking questions is a great way to figure out more information. It's a great way to engage in discussion and go really in depth with topics. And asking questions is great in lectures if your professor allows it. Sometimes they ask you themselves and they'll be like, anyone have any questions? Or maybe during a break in lecture, if there is one, you could go up to the professor and ask a question. Oftentimes profs will lay out what they like in terms of students asking questions. Some profs don't like to be interrupted while they're lecturing, and they want you to come up to them maybe at the end of the lecture or go to their office or maybe ask an assistant. So whatever it is that you could do to ask questions, make sure that you are doing it. It is a great way to learn. And that leads me to my second tip, which is know who your prof is. And you're like, okay, obviously if I'm going to lecture, I know who my prof is, but know who your prof is. And what I mean by that is have a good relationship with your prof. Know them and make sure that they know you, they know who you are. And you could do that by showing up to their office hours if they have them, asking them questions. Figure out if there is a TA for that course. And a TA is just a teaching assistant. So it is someone that you could visit aside from the professor and to ask further questions. And sometimes the TA may be the one who's marking your assignments or your exams and essays. So it's good for you to know who the TA is as well, and for the TA to know you. They are another source of information and person who can answer your questions when you have them. TAs sometimes teach tutorials. So that brings me through my third tip, which is if there are tutorials for your course, make sure that you're attending them. Tutorials are not always mandatory, and not every university or college has tutorials. The university that I went to did have tutorials, and sometimes they counted in the course grade and other times they were optional. So it's for you to determine, talk to your professor. Sometimes they just let you know in the first lecture whether the tutorials are mandatory and what type of information they will be teaching during the tutorials. Sometimes they pick difficult topics from the lecture that was taught by the professor during the regular class time, and in tutorial they will expand on that or discuss the topic further just because these are more difficult topics and students might need more help with them. Other times they have in-tutorial quizzes, or they might go over assignment questions if you need further help with that. So it's just another way to learn more and get extra help when you need it. Most profs and TAs often hold office hours, which are extra hours outside of lecture and tutorial time where you could go and meet the professor or a TA to ask more questions and get extra help. So if a prof or TA does have office hours, make sure you know what days they are, what time they are, so that you can see when you can go and visit them and ask your questions. My next tip is that make sure that you are taking notes, whether that is in lecture, during tutorials, or when you go and ask questions to your prof, because chances are if you are just sitting there and listening and trying to absorb all the information while the prof or TA is trying to teach, what happens is you will lose some of the information if you are not doing something with the information that is coming at you. There is a lot of information that is thrown at you during lectures, and sometimes it's used overwhelming. So the best thing you could do in the moment is write down the key points or type it out. And that leads me to my next point, which is everyone has a different learning style. Some people do like to just sit back and listen, which is great, but do try to keep note of some of the key things, maybe things like deadlines or very important topics, because because these are things that are going to show up on your exams. Also, some people like to write their notes and other people like to type their notes. So it is up to you to determine what learning style is best for you and which way is best for you to take notes. For myself, I really like to do a combination of both. I liked typing my notes in lecture just because there was so much information being thrown at me that if I didn't type, I felt like I was missing out on information because I would write too slow and I felt like the prof was way ahead of me and it was kind of difficult for me to catch up. Whereas when I was typing things, it was much easier for me to just kind of go with the flow, and it just made things a lot easier. When it came to the professor drawing things like diagrams or graphs or things like that, I'd like to pull out my notebook and draw the figure, and then in my typed notes, I would say refer to figure or graph, whatever that was in my notebook. So I knew that my notes on my laptop and my notes in my notebook worked in conjunction with each other, and I always knew where to refer to and how to find what I was looking for. So I did a bit of both, and you just need to determine what works best for you. Another thing that really came in handy for me when it came to learning and really absorbing the knowledge was having the lectures recorded. Some professors, they record the lectures and they will let you know where you can find the lecture recordings, maybe on the school website or the prof's website, but not all lectures are recorded. So you could ask your prof whether your lecture is recorded, and that is a great way to learn after class. Once you are at home, or maybe after the lecture is over and you're studying at school, you could just put in your headphones and re-listen to the lecture and catch all the points that you may have missed during the lecture. That being said, if the prof says no, the lecture is not recorded, you could record the lecture, assuming that that is okay with the prof. So I used to do that, and it was a great way for me to listen to my lectures when I was on transit, or when I was driving, I would just put it on through Bluetooth, and it was perfect for me because there were so many things that I would miss during the lecture, and sometimes there were really important key details, and when I would re-listen to the lecture, I would just go back in and refill my notes, and that way I would have all the information to answer those exam questions. It is also really important to know your course structure. So before the course begins, make sure you go into your course syllabus and figure out where are your grades going to come from. Do you have a 70% final and then 3 assignments that are worth 10% each? Do you have weekly quizzes? Do you have a lot of essays, or maybe your tutorials count for 10% of your grade? So there's a lot of ways that profs can combine little grades and make your course grade. And the best thing for you to do is determine where should you prioritize your time. So for example, for me, I had a class where I had a 70% final. The other 30% was divided into little chunks for assignments and quizzes and things like that. But I knew that the 70% was a huge chunk of my grade, which means that I really had to put in that effort for my 70% final, make sure I really know my stuff in order to do well in the course overall. So once you know where your grades are coming from, it's easy to know where to concentrate most of your time and effort, and it makes it just that much easier to score that grade that you want in the class. For example, it just doesn't make sense for you to be focusing like a week of your time on a quiz that is worth maybe like 0.25% of your grade when you have like a 30% midterm coming up. So it's not to say that you should ignore assignments and quizzes and things that are worth less. It's just, it helps you prioritize where the chunk of your time should be going, so that you're not panicking about the little things, but really keeping in mind the bigger picture and focusing on the things that are really going to help you get the grade that you want. My next tip is to review topics beforehand, and the way that you could do that is if your prof tells you which topic, what chapter or lecture they're going to do the next class, what you could do is check to see if they have a website where they post their notes, maybe the school website. Download the notes, read through them, see what they're going to teach, and maybe read the textbook to gain some extra knowledge, so that when you're sitting in lecture, you're really focusing on catching the extra details and not confused about the foundation of the topics. This really helps in courses that are more advanced and a higher level course, because there's so much detail and it's a lot more difficult for you to grasp everything in lecture. So if you have a basic foundation of knowledge, then when you're in lecture, you are just building on top of that knowledge, and it helps you retain the information for longer as well. So for example, some of my profs, they would put up PDFs of notes that were either completely filled in and the prof was just going to go over extra details in lecture and maybe explain the figures and graphs. And other profs, what they did was they had fill in the blank notes or notes that were incomplete that we would again fill in during lecture. So that really helped me, and what I would do is I would print out the PDFs and review them and just kind of skim through and see what was coming for the next day. And that really helped me stay on track when we were in lecture and have a bit of basic information about the topic, so I didn't feel too confused in lecture. I'm like talking so much, my throat's going dry, and I don't even have water on me. That's just great. I cannot stress this enough. Use a planner or anything that helps you plan ahead, even if it's just a simple notebook. When your course begins, make sure you have all your deadlines down, any due dates, when are your exams, when are your midterms, any quizzes, assignments. Chances are you're taking a number of classes, and some of the material in your classes might overlap as well, and things get a little confusing when the prof's not constantly reminding you about which assignment's coming up or whatever. So you need to be in charge of knowing your own deadlines and make sure that you are on track and you can plan your study week and know when you are free to hang out with friends and when you really need to buckle down and study. The scariest thing that could happen is you thinking your exam is like 2 weeks away and next thing you know, it's in 2 days. You do not want to be in that situation. So make sure you have all your deadlines, due dates written down so that you can plan ahead and you know exactly what's coming, when it's coming, and you can prepare better for those exams. Now, this might seem really obvious, but stay off your phone during lectures. And the reason I say that is because when you are sitting in lecture and you're just spending time on your phone or, I don't know, playing games on your laptop or on Facebook or whatever, you are wasting your time. Stay attentive, be prepared to learn, and you want to be fully paying attention so that you are receiving all the knowledge that the prof is giving you. If you're sitting on your phone and you're more interested in Instagram and Snapchat, then you're not really getting all the information that is being given to you, and chances are you're going to miss out on important details that are going to show up on your exam questions. And if the class is small, I don't know, maybe under 30 students, chances are your prof could see you on your phone, and when you later go in to ask questions, maybe they have a little judgment about you not being attentive in class. I don't know, just a thought. The last thing I want to say is make friends or have contacts from people in your class. And the reason why this is so important is because sometimes you may not be able to go to lecture for any reason. Maybe you're sick or something. Then at least you have someone in class to help you catch up, maybe give you any information you may have missed on. Also is a great idea because you could then make study groups if you are someone who learns well in a group setting. Study groups are amazing if you like to study with groups and you are someone who likes to ask a lot of questions and discuss topics, and it really helps you prepare for exams. Again, study groups are not for everyone, but if they are a good idea for you, then it's a great idea to get to know people in your class. The more people you know, the more people you have to ask questions and discuss exam topics with. Also, when you are confused about a topic and you need instant help, sometimes the prof is not able to get back to you quickly. You might have to send an email, you might have to wait till office hours or whatever it is. But with someone like a friend in class or a contact that you may have in class, it's easy to just shoot them a text message and get help faster rather than waiting for a prof or a TA. And that is all for this video, you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you learned and picked up a few tips on how to succeed and do well in university, school, or college, whatever it is that you're pursuing. I'll try to make more videos related to this topic so I can really help you guys. So thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!